Hey, good morning. It's a few minutes after 9 o'clock. We'll go ahead and begin. We have a quorum. Clerk, please call the roll.
Senator Hornback, Senator Southworth. Here. Senator Yates. Representative Bowling.
Apologize, present by district by Zoom.
Representative Hart.
Here, present in the room.
Representative Mentor. Senator Meredith.
Present in the room.
Chairman Cook.
Here in the room. First item on the agenda is consideration of the minutes of the October 12th, 2021 meeting of the committee. Is there a motion? We have a motion. Is there a second? We have a motion and a second. Clerk, please call the roll.
Senator Hornback. Senator Southworth.
Aye.
Senator Yates.
Aye.
Representative Bowling.
Aye.
Representative Hart.
Yes.
Representative Mentor. Senator Meredith.
Aye.
Chairman Cook.
Aye. Motion carries. Total number of items on the agenda today, 445 in the amount of $153,979,511.23. Next is the deferred list. Number 69 from the July routine PSC green list. I'm sure we're all familiar with seeing this again. If the representatives are here, please identify yourself for the record.
Good morning. I'm Mona Womack, and I'm an executive advisor with the Justice Cabinet.
Good morning. Thank you for being here. You flying solo today?
I am. Secretary Harvey sends his regrets. He had a previously scheduled engagement. Otherwise, he would be with you again.
Wonderful. Well, thank you, and you may proceed.
Thank you. Concerning the contract for toxicology services between the Justice Cabinet and the Office of State Medical Examiner and National Medical Services, also you know them as NMS, to remind the committee of the status of this contract, Axis, the company that was not awarded the contract, filed a protest, and at our request and with the approval of the Finance Cabinet last month, the proposals offered by the two bidders, Axis and NMS, were both disqualified. As Secretary Harvey reported to you last month, this is a priority for him. So the Justice Cabinet has been working diligently to develop a new request for proposal so we can rebid this contract as soon as possible. We understand that the Commonwealth cannot suffer a lapse of these vital services, so we are currently continuing the contract with NMS only so long as necessary to complete the new RFP process, award a contract, and effect a smooth transition if the vendor changes. We're able to continue the current contract with NMS because in the resolution of the protest, the Finance Cabinet permitted us to utilize an emergency authorization to keep the contract in place until we have a new contract. In an effort to alleviate any and all concerns of this committee regarding the current contract and to provide as fair a process as possible, we've assigned new Justice Cabinet staff to the issuance of the new RFP. Our staff have been working cooperatively with Chief Medical Examiner Ralston and his staff at the Office of State Medical Examiner, and we're working to obtain a contract recognizing that the Office of State Medical Examiner and the Kentucky coroners are vital partners in this work. And we need to get a contract in place that reflects the services they need to complete this very important work for the citizens of this state. Under these circumstances, we respectfully ask that the committee defer the NMS contract again until a new agreement for toxicology services is in place.
Okay, thank you. The request is that they defer. Is there any discussion, or is there a motion that we go ahead and defer this?
I'll make the motion to defer, but just want to thank the cabinet again for taking our concerns so seriously, and it certainly validates the purpose of this committee. And many times our concerns, I think, don't receive the attention they should. So again, I commend the new secretary on taking this seriously, issuing the new RFP, and am looking forward to resolution of this issue and seeing what the new contract looks like. But again, I'm very appreciative of the steps that the cabinet has taken in making sure this is fair, this is transparent, and we're spending the taxpayers' dollars as efficiently as we should. So again, extend my appreciation to the secretary, and with that, I will make a motion to defer.
Second that motion.
We have a motion and a second. But before we go into that, Patty Mentor, Representative Mentor, I know that you have come online. When it comes to you, if you could just acknowledge you're present from your district and then cast your vote.
Yes, thank you.
Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Senator Hornback. Senator Southworth.
Aye.
Senator Yates.
Aye.
Representative Bowling.
Yes.
Representative Hart.
Yes.
Representative Mentor.
Yes, and I'm present remotely from my district.
Senator Meredith.
Aye.
Chairman Cook.
Aye. We'll come back to that. Motion carries. Item has been deferred. Thank you for being with us this morning. Look forward to hearing more as this process moves forward.
Thank you. May I be excused?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank
for
you.
being here.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Senator Yates, would you like to, for roll call purposes, would you like to acknowledge that you're online, please?
Yes, I'm online by Zoom from district.
Thank you,
Thank
sir.
you, Mr. Chair.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, and Representative Bowling, I'm online from my district. That was actually Senator Yates who was speaking when my name was called during roll. So
I didn't think you sounded like yourself when that roll call went through.
yeah. So
All right. Thank you all. We have that straightened out. Next order of business is consideration of the agenda, including the deferred list, corrections list, personal service contract list, PSC amendment list, memorandum of agreement list, memorandum of agreement amendment list, except for those items selected for further review. Do we have a motion to consider the contracts reviewed without objection? Motion by Representative Hart, second by Senator Meredith. All those in favor vote aye. All opposed, no. Clerk, please call the roll.
Senator Hornback. Senator Southworth.
Aye.
Senator Yates.
Aye.
Representative Bowling.
yes.
Representative Hart.
Yes.
Representative Mentor.
Yes.
Senator Meredith. Chairman Cook.
Aye. Motion carries. First item on the pulled list is with the Department for Workforce Investment. It is number 9 in the routine PSC green list. If the representatives are here, please identify yourself for the record.
Good morning. My name is Mark Mayer. I'm the General Counsel in the Education Workforce Development Cabinet. Thank you for having me today.
Good morning. Thank you for being with us. You by yourself?
Yes, sir.
All right, you may proceed.
By way of background, this contract with outside counsel stems from litigation which began in November of 2019. This committee approved a verbatim the same contract this time last year at the September 8, 2020 meeting. We retained this outside counsel because of the highly specialized nature of representing state agencies litigating the Randolph-Shepard Act before the U.S. Court of Claims, which also requires special licensure. At the time that we contracted with this outside counsel in July of 2020, we did it under a not practical to bid because the judge had ordered a record be made and appearance by counsel. And we had about, I think, 20 days to identify counsel. We searched for outside counsel, and the only other option we identified required a rate of $840 per hour. I understand that this outside counsel is being compensated at a rate above the state rate, but it is much reduced as compared to other entities we tried to contract with back in July of 2020. This 2021 contract should have been renewed at the end of the fiscal year. It was an oversight, and I would say that it was my fault that we didn't get it renewed in time. Again, the contract is verbatim the same, and the funds that are paying outside counsel are coming from the Rehabilitation Services Administration, Office of Vocational Rehabilitation, federal funds, to prevent a failure in identifying contracts that are set to term. We've worked with our division director in accounting to start a monthly run of contracts that will terminate in the next 30 or 60 days in an effort to ensure that this doesn't happen again. That is the short story of this contract. I'd be happy to take any questions and hopefully respond.
Yes, sir. Thank you. And I believe Chairman Meredith has a few questions for you about that.
Thank
Yes,
you,
sir.
Chairman Cook. And Mr. Mayor, appreciate your explanation. Appreciate your letter that you sent us on September 27th. And my objection, which is no surprise to members of this committee, is the fact that we're doing retroactively. And again, you did a great job explaining what has occurred. I'm just continuing amazed that in state government we don't have processes in place to make sure, regardless of whose administration is at the helm at the time, that these things continue to fall through the crack. I'm a very process-oriented guy, and I appreciate that you've already taken steps to correct this. But I hope you can appreciate that if we have to look at something retroactively, to me, it's always a red flag is why did this occur? And sometimes it is a process or the lack of a process that causes these things. And sometimes it's just folks just don't want us to look behind the curtain. And we have to, much as we talked about a previous contract that we had to really scrutinize. But I appreciate that you're taking these steps. Just, I guess, a word of caution is I don't like retroactively approving contracts. You know, the responsibility of this committee is kind of be the good housekeeping seal of approval, that when a contract is approved, it says everything's all right, that everybody's being transparent, we're spending the dollars effectively. But if we have to do this retroactively, there's no way that I can assign my name to that this is legitimate. But I'll certainly give you the benefit of doubt in this one, particularly since this is a continuation of litigation. And obviously the need for this contract is apparent. But again, just want to caution you and anybody else that be careful in asking retroactive approval. But again, I appreciate your explanation, appreciate your changes in your processes, and hope that other cabinets are paying attention and they'll do the same. So thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you,
Yes, sir. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Go ahead. You have a comment?
I was going to say, I take your comments to heart, sir, and believe me, I will ensure that this doesn't happen again, and we're hiring an additional person to add to that team so we can bolster those procedures that are now in place.
Very good. If there's no further comments or question, I will entertain a motion.
So moved to approve.
A motion, is there a second?
Second.
Senator Southworth, was that you with the second? Great. We have a motion and a second. Clerk, please call the roll.
Senator Hornback, Senator Southworth,
Aye.
Senator Yates,
Aye.
Representative Bowling,
Aye.
Representative Hart,
Yes.
Representative Mentor,
Yes.
Senator Meredith,
Aye.
Chairman Cook.
Yes. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next item on the pulled list is with Kentucky State University. It's number 23 on our routine green list. If the representatives are here, please identify yourself for the record.
Good morning. I'm Beverly Schneller. I am the Vice Provost for Academic Quality, Innovation, and Research at Kentucky State University, and I'm the Government Relations Liaison.
Good morning. Thank you for
Good
being
morning.
with us here in person. We really
Thank you.
appreciate that very much.
Yes, sir.
Co-Chairman Meredith has questions for you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Co-Chair Cook. And just for the committee's information, is Dr. Scheller and I had a good conversation last Friday via Zoom. And I want the committee to know and appreciate that she's wearing a lot of different hats right now. And quite truthfully, I don't know how she's doing everything that she can possibly do, but I'm convinced that she's committed to it. So I appreciate you being here this morning. I
Thank
think
you,
we're
sir.
all fully aware of the problems that Kentucky State is currently facing, and that when we return to session in January, we'll be asking for a substantial an appropriation to try to address that shortfall. My conversation with Dr. Scheller with regard to this contract, and I was really kind of anticipating what Senator Hornback might say or ask, because he always brings objections to these contracts, that he doesn't understand why we're engaging, the universities are engaging people to lobby the legislature, that if we're building relationships, it really should be unnecessary. And again, I think people are full aware of the problem that Kentucky State is currently facing financially. And as I said to you use the common vernacular. You know, right now it looks like y'all don't have a pot to pee in, but we're spending $62,000 for a consulting contract. I will tell you and tell the committee that I pulled this before we had our conversation, and I have a much keener understanding that you folks don't have the resources to do this.
Thank you, sir.
I think if you had a little bit more lead time, what I would encourage is it doesn't just have to come from administration. I think here's a great time to galvanize your student body and your faculty. They can lobby on Kentucky State's behalf just as well as this group can. And again, I understand that requires a plan, and you don't have time to put together a plan, so you're outsourcing this.
Yes, sir.
So I can live with this very extreme situation, but just want to caution going forward that I would hope that, again, whoever the new president might be will work diligently this next year to build the relationship with the legislature, that you won't feel a need to lobby us, particularly with this issue. But, Mr. Chair, I really don't have any questions for Dr. Scheller unless other committee members do. I just thank her for being here this morning. Appreciate her time with me, and would make a motion to approve this.
I agree.
Thank you, sir.
Had a wonderful conversation on Friday, and very much appreciate you and wish you best of luck moving forward with this. Look forward to
Thank
working
you.
with you. We have a motion and a second to approve this contract from Senator Southworth. Do you have a comment?
I just want to know if we could maybe get a Cliff's Notes bullet list of the conversation on Friday, just for the rest of us who weren't there.
Sure.
Sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
Nothing way super long, just
Yes. No, I
kinda
understand.
get a summary.
Okay. All right. We have a motion and a second by Representative Hart was the second. Clerk, please call the roll.
Senator Hornback, Senator Southworth,
Aye.
Senator Yates,
Aye.
Representative Bowling,
Yes.
Representative Hart,
Yes.
Representative Mentor,
Yes.
Senator Meredith,
Aye.
Chairman Cook.
Aye. Motion carries.
Co-chair, before Dr. Scheller excuse herself from the table, just want to mention as part of our conversation, I did give her my lecture on retroactive approvals.
Yes, sir.
And we do have some retroactive requests this time. I did not pull those because, again, I think she has a full understanding. Again, being new to the position, I appreciate her reaching out to me, but truly is a unique situation for Kentucky State University, and anything that we can do to relieve that burden, I hope we can do it. So it just seemed to be non-productive to pull those contracts and have this conversation once again, but thank you for being here.
Thank you. And thank you all for your support. We're very grateful. Thank you.
Okay, next item on the pulled list is with the Kentucky Housing Corporation, number 24 on the green list. If the representatives are here, please identify yourself for the record.
Jeremy Ratliff, General Counsel for Kentucky Housing Corporation. And with me is Curtis Stopper. He's a managing director in our organization that is dealing directly with the services to be provided by this contract.
Good morning, welcome. Thank you for being with us this morning. Co-Chairman Meredith has questions.
Well, unfortunately, last meeting we lost our committee quorum, and we didn't really get to take action on this or question this, other than I did talk to folks at Kentucky Housing Corporation about retroactive approvals, and we have yet another one. I don't fault them for that, and probably wouldn't have pulled it, but there is some discrepancy in the dates on this. According to the contract list we received, excuse me, let me find it here. It has a September 1 start date for this contract, but in your letter of explanation, it says October. So, which is it?
I apologize for that discrepancy, Senator. It is September. And if I may, if you'll indulge me, I'd like to, Kentucky Housing certainly recognizes the authority of the committee and respects that authority. This is not an attempt to be disrespectful or anything or hide the ball in any way, shape, or form. This is somewhat a collision of storms that have led to, human beings making mistakes in communication. We are, as this body knows, we as a Commonwealth are facing, heretofore unseen circumstances, frankly, that have arisen as a result of the pandemic, which is out of control of everyone. And Kentucky Housing Corporation is tasked with, providing vital services as the federal government disperses funds to try to address the circumstances that have arisen from the pandemic. It is heretofore unseen resources for the agency to administer, which has created a significant work burden. And I am not here to, cry about that or make excuses. This is not an attempt to make excuses. This is just trying to provide the committee with some explanation of the circumstances that have brought us to the point we're at. That work burden is extreme. And as part of that has, resulted in an email not being sent to give certain people heads up that things were happening so that we could address them with this committee in advance through letters. We have an understanding of what the committee seeks, and that is as soon as we as an agency know that we need to enter into a contract and it may result in it being retroactive in nature because of the process we're going through, that we just inform the committee of that through a letter or some sort of communication to the committee as soon as we know that. Unfortunately, we have this situation where, emails didn't get sent. We also had turnover in our legal department, which is, it's not an excuse, but it's just the reality of the situation at Kentucky Housing Corporation. And, I will own it as the general counsel that, a ball got dropped and we just didn't manage to get proper communication to the committee in advance. We did provide the letter that you had before you in an effort to try to communicate it as best we possibly could. All I can offer is that we understand what the committee wishes. We wish to comply with that and to work with the committee as the committee desires. And we will work to do that going forward. And we will work on our internal communication to make sure that these things are handled appropriately and as the committee wishes them to be handled.
Well, I certainly thank you for that. And the letter that you sent us last month was quite appropriate. But as you already identified, that the issue was that we received that in October, not in July or even August. I think you do have an understanding of what my expectations are for this committee, and a little bit selfish, but I think this too often on these contracts, getting legislative approval is the last thing that people think of, and I want to be the first thing that people think of. But I'm convinced that you certainly understand our position on that, and I commend you for that and commend you for your letter. Again, just the timing of it is the biggest issue. I'm very empathetic to the workload that everybody's facing right now, but if we establish our priorities, have policies and procedures in place and follow those, it makes efficiency for everyone, including this committee and staff, and that's one of the reasons that I'm so insistent upon this. But I'm not going to continue my diatribe. I appreciate your letter this time. Again, I'm looking forward in the future. We won't have to deal with these issues, and that if you do have a situation that requires a retroactive approval, we will receive some timely notification of that, and that's all I ask. But I appreciate that greatly. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. And if I could just say, and this is not just for Kentucky Housing Corporation, if you follow government contract review, which I know everyone does because we're the committee in Frankfort, there is a theme to us, and that is the retroactive start date. So if you want a great big clue on how to help avoid coming in here on Tuesday morning at 9 a.m., get your contracts in on time. That being said, is there a motion to consider this contract review?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and second. Is that you, Representative Mentor?
Yes, it is.
All right. Welcome. Thank you. Clerk, please call the roll.
Senator Hornback, Senator Southworth,
Aye.
Senator Yates,
Aye.
Representative Bowling,
Aye.
Representative Hart,
Yes.
Representative Mentor,
Yes.
Senator Meredith,
Aye.
Chairman Cook.
Yes. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next item on the polled list with the University of Louisville. And the university has requested a referral on number 33 on the routine PSC green list. and numbers 45 and 46 on the PSC Amendment Ivory list. Do we have a motion to defer these items to December?
Motion to defer.
Motion by Co-Chairman Meredith, second by Representative Hart. Clerk, please call the roll.
Senator Hornback, Senator Southworth,
Aye.
Senator Yates,
Aye.
Representative Bowling,
Yes.
Representative Hart,
Yes.
Representative Mentor,
yes,
Senator Meredith, Chairman Cook.
Yes. Motion carries. Okay, next item on the polled list is with the Department of Veterans Affairs and is number 26 on the PSC Amendment Ivory list. I'd like to go ahead, since we have Veterans Day this week, to say Happy Veterans Day to all our veterans out there. If the representatives are here, please identify yourself for the record.
My name is Joni Gosser, and I'm the administrator at Thompson Hood Veterans Center. Mark Bowman, the executive director of Kentucky Veterans Center, is joining us by Zoom from another area.
Yes. I'm on now.
There he is.
Yes.
Good morning.
Thank you.
Welcome. Thank you for being with us this morning. Co-Chairman Meredith has questions.
Yes, thank you for joining us this morning, and this should be a very brief conversation. Issue, that's kind of a strong word, but my problem with this is the contract description that we received. Excuse me, I'm trying to find my number here.
Number 26, Ivory.
Off of page 9.
Yeah, excuse me, I'll be better prepared. My apologies. We have a $6.6 million contract, and this is a continuation, obviously, from the previous period. But in just to identify the vendors as multi doesn't tell me anything. And again, I have to make a very broad assumption that the vendors that we approved for the previous contract were rolling over to these contracts. But again, just for my information purposes and to clarify, I really would like to know who those vendors are and the amounts that each of those contracts are. And again, I don't think that precludes or keeps us from approving this contract, but I would like to have that information. Is that possible?
We'll we'll get that for you. Joni is getting with the contract person right now, and they'll get those names and data for you.
I've got the names of the vendors. I just don't have the amounts. I've got the names, if you'd like the names first.
How many firms are we talking about?
11.
11, okay. No, I really don't want the names today, and if you could just provide me with that information, sometimes over the next couple of weeks, I would appreciate it. And again, it's not that I'm suspecting anyone's done anything wrong. It's just for full transparency disclosure. When you're looking at spending $6.6 million, I really would like to have more information than this is just multiple vendors. So that's my issue, Mr. Chair. If that's possible, then I'd make a motion to approve this contract.
We have a motion, and I'll make the second. Clerk, please call the roll.
Senator Hornback, Senator Southworth,
Aye.
Senator Yates,
Aye.
Representative Bowling,
Yes.
Representative Hart,
Yes.
Representative Mentor,
yes,
Senator Meredith,
Aye.
Chairman Cook.
Yes. Motion carries.
Thank you very much, and we'll make sure we get that information to you. Appreciate it.
Sorry, let me repeat that. Sorry. Next item on the polled list is with the Kentucky Communications Network Authority, number 34 on the PSC Amendment Ivory list. If the representatives are here, please identify yourself for the record.
Good morning. My name is Doug Hendricks. I'm the general counsel for KCNA. Also with me is Adam Adkins, my deputy general counsel. Brittany Montgomery is our paralegal, and our executive director, Mike Hayden, is available as well.
Welcome to the committee. Senator Southworth has some questions for you.
Yes, thank you. I wanted to get an idea of, it looks like to me, at first it was consulting type situation with public-private partnerships and bonds, litigation preparation. And then as I got the modification information, it says protecting experts' work from discovery and anticipation of litigation between the Commonwealth and its contractors. Can you get us a handle on exactly what's going on and what litigation are we in or expecting? Because this has obviously been a long-standing issue, but we need an extension for some reason. So if you give us a little more background on that.
Sure. Ice Miller is the outside counsel we have used, I think since maybe 2018, 2017. And they've always provided, litigation has been the primary focus of what we were going to use them for and to assist us in litigation with our contractors. But they also provided some services, on bond issues. They provided our legal advice on bond issues, on the wholesaler issues. So they provide that backstop for Adam and I to be able to pick up the ball and run with it if we do have litigation. So right now, if you'll bear with me, let me give you just real quickly where we're at. Kentucky Wired is a statewide network and has a presence in every county. And in order to provide that service, we have 20 communication shelters across the state that house network equipment. Well, we discovered that those 20 shelters, which house the equipment, were defective. They suffered from extensive water damage. So as a result of that, we've replaced all of those shelters. Right now, we're pressing our claims against the manufacturer and the distributor of the shelters, and Ice Miller's handling this litigation for us. We're in negotiations with them now. We have not initiated our contract claim with the finance secretary yet, and we just need Ice Miller to continue to handle this work for us. As further background, when we started the process of amending the contract, we still had about $85,000 left on the contract, but I wanted to make sure that we had sufficient funds so that we could pursue our claims for the huts. And also, as it relates to the discovery issue, Ice Miller engaged an independent expert to inspect the huts. And, they wanted to protect that from discovery as their own work product and under the civil rules. And that was a very expensive project. It was $151,000 is how much the expert cost us to inspect those 20 huts and to render his opinion that they were defective. So we just want to make sure that we have enough money available for us to continue to press our claims and to try to recover as much as we can for the Commonwealth.
Okay, I appreciate, the issue. I guess my question is, in the last multiple different contexts that we've received updates on the Kentucky Wired project, it seems like some of the funding is general funding for staff. Some of the funding is anticipated with retail sales. And I'm just wondering, costs for litigation, is that coming out of general funds? Is that already worked into your budget? The excess cost here has to come from somewhere, and where do you see that coming from?
I believe that comes from our budget. We have a budgeted amount for legal services, but I'll check that and make sure and be sure to give you the straight answer on that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. And I just want to follow up, make sure I got this right. So we had 20 huts throughout the entire state, all with significant water damage, and they're all probably less than 5 years old.
That's correct. And not all of them had significant water damage. We had some that were in terrible condition, frankly. And since they were all manufactured by the same entity in the same way, the expert came up as he reviewed it. And it was also, well, let me take a step back. I'm sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. It's in different stages. So not all the huts are as bad as the later ones are in better shape than the old ones, but we were afraid they were going to get there. And that was the expert's opinion. We also had one of the experts at DECA from the finance cabinet. He also inspected them and recommended that they all be replaced. So yes, in 5 years, we were surprised as you are.
Wow. Okay. Is there any further comments or questions on this contract? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
I have a question.
Yes, Representative Bowling.
What was the cost on the 20 huts to the Commonwealth of Kentucky?
I can't remember that number off the top of my head. I'd be glad to get that to you.
Okay, yeah, I mean, that'd be helpful, but you ballpark, not even a ballpark guesstimate?
I think it was over $1 million, maybe 1.5 million. Is how much they cost for the 20 huts.
So
And as I used to say when I was at the PSC, that's subject to check. We'll get you an actual number on that, but I think it was about 1.5 million.
Okay, so
it didn't include the installation cost. You know, there was a cost for our contractors to install them and connect them and all that.
Right. So we're going to spend another 1.1 million in possible legal fees to recoup a possible 1.5 million.
No, we're only asking for 350,000 to get us up to the 1.1 million. I don't think it'll cost that much. I mean, you know, frankly, litigation is expensive, but I don't think that we'll incur that amount of legal expenses to recover that. And we would be seeking to recover more than that, frankly. You know, we'll be looking at to recover, you know, the full amount to replace them completely. And that number is, you know, over $7 million.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Was that same company responsible for the day-to-day care, or were they just put up and forgotten? Or I'm sorry, I'm focused on this waste here for a second. I know it's nothing to do with this contract, but just curious how that was.
No, the manufacturer, it was a different entity than the contractors that we currently have now. And when they were installed, the contractor then had the obligation to maintain those up until the point they were turned over to the Commonwealth. And it was at that point when they were turned over to us, meaning that part of the construction was done, that's when we discovered the damage. So it wasn't the manufacturer or the distributor's obligation to maintain them. It was the contractor's obligation to maintain them.
Very good. Is there a motion to consider this contract reviewed?
I'll make a motion, Representative Bowling.
Motion by Representative Bowling. Is there a second? Second by Representative Hart. Clerk, please call the roll.
Senator Hornback, Senator Southworth,
Aye.
Senator Yates,
Aye.
Representative Bowling,
Yes.
Representative Hart,
Yes.
Representative Mentor,
Yes.
Senator Meredith, Chairman Cook.
Yes. Motion carries.
Thank you all. We'll get this information you requested to you as soon as possible. And, you know, if you ever have any questions about this project or anything, please feel free to reach out to me.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Have a good day.
You too. Next item on the polled list is with Department for Public Health. It's number 65 on the MOA Amendment 10 list. If the representatives are here, please identify yourself for the record.
You have Stephen Stack, Commissioner for Public Health, and we should also have Mike Tuggle, who is our Budget Director for the Department for Public Health, and Kelly Rodman, I suspect, and Astrid Masterson, who is the Head of Procurement for the Cabinet.
Good morning. Thank you for being with us. Give me just a second for everybody to get flipped over to the right contract. Okay. Thank you for being with us. I believe Senator Southworth has questions.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. My first main question is UK community-based tests. Is this inclusive of, for example, the UK student body, or is this through UK health, like through the hospital, or both?
Well, this is community-based testing. So it's not specific to the students or the faculty. It is for anyone from across Kentucky who would choose to go to these locations and get testing. And so it has been at UK facilities. They used, when the volume was very high, Kroger Field. Now it's at a different location on campus. At times they've had up to 3 different locations, but it was open to anyone from the Commonwealth of Kentucky who signed up to get a test.
So since it's on campus, theoretically, students who are getting tested probably are going to that facility, or does the UK have locations on campus that they're not in charge of?
UK has other testing avenues and options that are dedicated just for their students and or staff. I'm not familiar with the details of that, but they have their own program. In fact, during COVID, they had built an entire response team to do testing, contact tracing, and other activities. So I know that the campus has its own dedicated initiatives for students and faculty. I'm not familiar with the details though, but yes, some of their students and faculty could have used these services, which is fine if they're in Kentucky, but they have their own separate avenues as well.
Okay, thank you. So what I'm looking at here is $43.5 million in total. Right now, we're looking at asking for an increase of the $5 million of that, because my guess is well, not my guess, it says right here, increased demand. I'm trying to get a handle on exactly what the increased demand would be for COVID testing in this era, because it seems like to me it's pretty well established that particles are flying around everywhere and nobody knows where they're coming from, or can't identify which particle came from where. And if you were to get a test, you know, the second you leave the testing facility, a particle could fly into your nose and you've got it and you didn't test for it. And then you get sick anyway 3 days later. And this stuff just keeps going on and on. And what I want to get a handle on, months ago, I asked the same question. At what point are we going to either start testing for every other kind of pathogen out there or stop testing for this one? Because it seems like there's a lot of focus, and we've spent now $38 million of the taxpayers just on this one contract. That's not including the hundreds of other millions of dollars of other testing. Now we're going to spend $5 more million. Meanwhile, you know, we've got people out with no broadband still. We've got product liability claims going on over here, trying to get the broadband stood up, $1 billion later. I mean, there's so many different needs for this money, and $5 million with zero to show for it after the fact. Because the money is going to be spent, it's very disposable. It's like spending money on, things you throw away, such as toilet paper. You feel like you're flushing it down, and we really are. So how much more money after this $5 million are we going to continue looking to give, and then not just on this front, but on other fronts? And at what point do you see this whole testing thing funneling down to, okay, that's enough?
Well, Senator, I think that's an interesting question, and it's one that I don't think the state, the nation, or the world has a clear answer for based on the behavior of this virus. And so, the hospitals are still now struggling from emerging from the current Delta variant, which is still out there, and where the hospitals are just beginning to get a bit of a reprieve, trying to identify folks and provide testing for them if they have been exposed or have symptoms, so that they can isolate themselves or seek medical care if they need to, has been part of the rationale for supporting testing, and to contain the further spread of the disease so that individuals don't get sicker than they need to, and so the hospitals don't get overrun. It's certainly a very valid question. It's also a very difficult question, but particularly as long as there are large numbers of folks who have not become vaccinated, it's very important that we try to make available to the public ways that they can get tested, so they can take other steps or other actions to protect themselves and others and minimize the spread of disease. So we'll keep looking at it and working at it. These are resources provided, many of these from federal funds, for this specific purpose or to support these activities. And so we'll keep doing the best we can. I wish I had a better answer for you, but I think it's a sufficiently complicated question that there's not a simple response.
One final question, because this says, these funds are basically covering for people who aren't insured or aren't Medicaid eligible. Therefore, health care coverage would theoretically cover this if you had it. If you don't, you can come here. Can you give us a short view of what all services the public health through UK or otherwise provides to people that don't have insurance or Medicaid, other types of tests that they provide?
Well, so over the course of the pandemic, as we've worked with this, we've worked with, in this instance, UK and Central Kentucky. We've worked with University of Louisville, with Norton, with St. Elizabeth's, obviously with Gravity Diagnostics, in a variety of ways to do community-based testing. And then, of course, we have other dedicated programs to support the nursing homes, all the long-term care facilities in Kentucky that are required by federal regulation and conditions of participation to test at a certain frequency. We've supported them extensively for the entire pandemic, again, using federal resources, federal funds. And now most recently, the dedicated grant funding that we use to support the K through 12 educational community, which by the way, we have now more than 80% of the schools across our districts in the state participating in. So that has been a really robust uptake. So we support testing for a variety of different populations in different settings, some of it with funding that is COVID funding, but has more general application, and some of it which is very, very specific, such as the money used to support the K through 12 testing. So it's been a very widespread initiative, and a lot of work has gone into it to make testing available to the people of Kentucky.
Okay, appreciate that explanation. It wasn't my original question, but I'm actually going to switch my final question to what I'm hearing. It sounds like, since these are federal funds, that when the federal funds no longer are coming, we would be a little bit more worried about the dollars and how they're spent, and that may be the answer to my original question as far as when we can wind this testing thing down. Is that fair a statement?
I don't anticipate at this time coming to this General Assembly with a request for general funds for these purposes. These are federal dollars that we're using, and I think the observation is quite valid. That is this pandemic continues to evolve, how we adapt to it and normalize it into a more routine operating manner is certainly a legitimate issue, and one that there's a lot of people trying to attend to for how we make those transitions. So yes, you are correct. I don't anticipate any request for general funds to support populate or community-based testing. I don't know what the government's needs are specific to itself, but that's not my primary area as the public health commissioner.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, back to number 65 here. Testing's obviously very important. Wife's a teacher, kids, we've had to take advantage of it and had the testing done. With that being said, I'll make a motion to approve this contract.
Second.
We have a second. Clerk, please call the roll.
Senator Hornback, Senator Southworth.
Explain my vote, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm going to be voting no. These are not general funds. These are federal funds, but the state receives federal funds for a number of things, and it's still our duty to oversee the use of those. A lot of the COVID funds have been allocated for things like expanding broadband, assisting education, and so forth, and I don't like to see federal funds wasted any more than I like to see state funds wasted. And I feel like additional testing at this point, where multiple countries around the world have already gone to the normalized process, and we're still sitting over here acting like we can see what's invisible and actually trace it and worry about,
Okay, thank you.
So
Clerk, please call.
for that
Continue calling
reason,
the roll.
I'm voting no.
Senator Yates,
I vote yes.
Representative Bowling,
Yes.
Representative Hart,
Yes.
Representative Mentor,
Yes, and thank you for your great work, Dr. Stack.
Senator Meredith, Chairman Cook.
Yes. Motion carries.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Final item on the pulled list is with the Department of Education, number 72 on the MOA Amendment 10 list. If the representatives are here, please identify yourself for the record.
Good morning. My name is Karen Worth, and I'm with Department of Education.
Thank you. By yourself today?
I am not. I have Deputy Commissioner Thomas Woods Tucker on with me today as well.
All right. Good morning. Welcome. And Senator Southworth has questions.
Thank you. It appears to me that this Mr. Sweeney had a certain position, and now we're changing his position, we're changing the job description, we're changing the pay. It's like it's a whole new thing, but instead we're doing it as an amendment. Is that what I'm seeing correctly here?
Yes, that's correct. We're modifying his previous position to this new position as Director of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion.
And do we have other people in contract roles in these jobs, or is this something we normally have full-time employees doing?
We do not have any other employees in that role. Dr. Sweeney is our first role in that area.
So can you explain why the contract then for this role?
Dr. Woods Tucker, I'm going to let you take that one.
Good morning, everyone, and thanks for an opportunity to explain the value added of this position. At its genesis, this is really a modification of an existing contract that we've had several years prior to my arrival here at the agency, at the Kentucky Department of Education, a memorandum of agreement between the Kentucky Department of Education and the Jefferson County Public School System. And what we're asking to do is make this modification in terms of reassigning the duties of Mr. Sweeney from a comprehensive guidance school counselor program coordinator to the Kentucky Department of Education's Director of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion, which is in line with the Kentucky Department of Education's goals, as well as being in line with the Kentucky Board of Education's goals to help level the playing field for all of our students. And what I mean by level the playing field, to provide greater learning opportunities for all students here in the Commonwealth. And we will maintain the coordinator's position. We have federal funds, at least until those funds run out. I do recall just a minute ago hearing the question that was posed about what's going to happen when these federal funds roll out. So we do have those federal funds in fact, we're interviewing now to backfill Dr. Sweeney's position for that comprehensive guidance counselor coordinator program. And so to talk more specifically about this, as I said, this is an MOA between KDE and the Jefferson County Public School System, switching duties for Dr. Sweeney. And in this new position will come greater responsibilities, as you alluded to. He's going to oversee 3 positions: the program coordinator of comprehensive school counseling, a position that we're backfilling now, and 2 Kentucky diversity, equity, and inclusion consultants. Again, those positions will be paid for out of federal dollars. He'll also help with the implementation of our equity toolkit that will serve the needs of all students in Kentucky. In addition to that, he will conduct, along with my presence and my support, district level DEI officers. These are already positions that districts across the great Commonwealth have in supporting diversity, equity, and inclusion for all students. So we're going to have monthly meetings and support those schools in our 170 school districts across the Commonwealth, as well as conduct regional educational cooperative meetings in supporting the same. Recently, we helped implement legislation, and this is powerful when I talk about, when we look at Kentucky's diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives in leveling the playing field and providing opportunities for all students with our federal funds. And in this position here, Dr. Sweeney is helping Kentucky families pay $10 or less for AP exams in Kentucky. Unheard of across the country, where all students, regardless of their ethnic background, regardless of their socioeconomic status or learning styles, will pay no more than $10 for AP exams. Also, a huge plus when we're talking about providing greater opportunities for students here in Kentucky, and Kentucky becoming a national leader in this, we're helping to provide funding for our first ever second campus for Kentucky Governor Schools for the Arts. Again, this position here will help ensure that we're providing more opportunities for students in the Governor School of the Arts. Also, offering trauma-informed practices to training to educators. When you ask our students here in the Commonwealth, what's their number one concern? You ask our staff, what's their number one concern? They don't say, well, we're concerned academically. We're concerned about the testing, or they want more tests. Our students and staff are suffering right now. They're hurting. And so what we're going to do, we're going to focus more in terms of providing professional training in the areas of social and emotional learning and mental health support. Then also, this is a huge position here. We're going to continue to oversee the minimum high school graduation requirements, the early graduation program, as well as accelerated learning and the individual learning program and more. As you know, 6 through 12 students in Kentucky have individual learning plans. Again, ensuring we're meeting the needs of each student, regardless of their background here in the Commonwealth. And last but not least, provide resources and guidance to help support underrepresented students and families, as well as educators throughout Kentucky.
Thank you. Senator Southworth, do you have a follow-up?
Yes, so are you suggesting that the position here is going to be overseeing all of the guidance counselors from the KDE level? So we're basically making guidance counselors part of this Office of Diversity, Equity, Inclusion versus the other way around, how it is now?
Yeah. That's a beautiful question, and thanks for asking for clarification. No, as I said, with our federal funds, we're going to backfill Dr. Sweeney's position, which is the coordinator of comprehensive school counseling. As you know, that position provides support for school counselors throughout the Commonwealth. Because of Dr. Sweeney's background and his reputation across Kentucky, he will help to supervise, evaluate, and lend support for this position we're backfilling. As a matter of fact, within the next week, we will be naming his replacement. So no, we're not moving our school counselors who are doing a tremendous job during this pandemic in reaching and meeting the needs of our students and staff. We will not be transitioning them into the Office of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion.
I think that clarifies. Thank you.
Thank you. Co-Chairman Meredith.
Thank you, and thank you for that explanation. I'm still having a little bit of trouble following the dollars here. Now, Dr. Sweeney's new position is totally new. He's not carrying over any of the previous responsibilities that he had as comprehensive guidance of counseling program. Is that correct?
Other than lending some supervisory support with me for the position that you just mentioned that will be backfilled. But in terms of doing the previous jobs, no, he will not.
And you mentioned that his previous position will be filled, and that'll be paid for from federal funding. Is that correct?
Yes, for 3 years. That's correct, until the funding runs out.
And then what happens?
Well, we hope by then leaders like you and other folks and our folks at KDE will see the value in this position, and we'll have additional funding because, as I said earlier, and really, you all know this as well as I do, if not better, we're going to have to continue to provide social, emotional learning and mental health support for our families, for our students across, across America. When you look at the pandemic, there are hundreds of thousands of kids who are without parents right now because of COVID. I mean, it's not just because of COVID, but this was something no one knew that was coming, and it has caused a tremendous amount of trauma, a tremendous amount of heartache for our students and families. And we're hearing concerns here in Kentucky every day in terms of needing some support. So I hope that when the federal funds do run out, that we can prove to our colleagues at KDE, we can prove to our lawmakers that we deserve additional funding to keep this support up well beyond the pandemic.
Well, I guess in a very twisted sort of way, the COVID pandemic has been a blessing for some of our school systems financially because of all the federal funding. And I appreciate you mentioning that some of these problems existed before COVID. Obviously they did, because you've had a school district that's been in crisis for some years now. And I guess this allows you to take advantage of the funding that previously was not available. And I certainly understand and appreciate that, but just want to caution anyone who's relying on federal funding that that's not going to last forever. You've already alluded that in 3 years this will go away, and then we're going to have to fill the void, and not sure how to do that. But I guess we take advantage of federal funding as long as we possibly can. But
Yes, or rethink or reimagine how we are going about educating our kids and how we're going about supporting our staff here in Kentucky. But I'll also say this, and I'm glad you made that very astute point about how the pandemic has illuminated a really bright light on some of the challenges that we've had and how we can reimagine education here. This is an opportunity for Kentucky, given the other things that we're doing, to be a national leader in supporting all students. And when we say all students, we're talking about students whose primary language may not be English. We're talking about students who may have IEPs, who are covered under IDEA or have 504s, who are coming from, and we know we have quite a bit of this in Kentucky. Many of our kids, regardless of their ethnicity, are coming from homes that are financially challenged. And so when we talk about providing opportunities for students, we're not just talking about a certain group of students. We're talking about each student here in Kentucky. And this pandemic is really was able to shine a bright light on our need to help close these opportunity gaps for all of our students who receive free and reduced price meals as well.
Again, I appreciate that. I came to the Senate in 2017, and a lot of the challenges you're talking about today were there in 2017 and before. It's just very unfortunate that the pandemic, as you said, has cast such a bright light on this. But I'm not sure we need to be a little bit more aggressive in reimagining our whole education system, because even before COVID, we were not getting the educational attainment levels that we had hoped and anticipated. So maybe this requires a broader conversation. But, Mr. Chairman, I'm not going to belabor the point. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Yates.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Mr. Tucker, for being here. And my colleague brings out a great point. That's what I was actually looking at, is our schools really don't, that's not what defines the social economic difference. It's our policies that do that. And here's an example of something that we can do as a policy that may help the schools in turn. When we talk about leveling the playing field, for a long time, I said that we want to level the playing field by bringing those students who have been left behind up. And that's kind of the goal in finding that level of inclusion. And I never really fully understood it until I worked as a youth mentor and one-on-one with some of the students and thinking about the environments in which they have grown or belong, and knowing that you really have got to have someone with a very straight focus on that inclusion and making sure that you're reaching out to the students who are coming from different social economic backgrounds. And we've seen that particularly in JCPS and some of the struggles, especially with some of the language gaps and that we deal with, but also just from the environmental differences, social, economic, environmental changes. So I appreciate that. My question though is how do we, because we're throwing money at a lot of different things, and what we got to do is figure out very best practices, because really we don't have any time to lose. So I guess the question would be, how do we evaluate the success of this position, and would it be, and how you would do that? Because it looks like in about 3 years or so, when their money starts running out, we're going to have to come back and say why this was successful, or why it may have to be tweaked and changed, or maybe money redone. So as far as our goal, Mr. Tucker, how do we decide if the value of this position, if it's been successful?
Senator Yates, thanks for that question, because a big part of what we do, and there's certainly a request from our commissioner and Commissioner Glass, as well as our Kentucky Board of Education, is to always ensure that we have an evaluative part of it. I think you have to look at whether this is going to be successful or not. You have to look at it quantitatively and qualitatively. The quantitative measure right off the bat would be, are we providing more opportunities for all students in the Commonwealth? Are we, through this position, did we double the number of students who are now taking part, who now have opportunities to be a part of the Kentucky Governor's School for the Arts? We know how important arts is in rounding out the education of all students. We know how successful students are who take part in the arts. So did we actually double the number of students? Did we ensure that our kids who are from the Appalachia part of Kentucky, did we, in the rural parts of Kentucky, did we provide more opportunities? Here's our baseline number. And in 3 years, did we provide more opportunities for our students in the most challenging areas? And in many cases, our students who are, and I'm a rural boy from Arkansas, from Cotton Plant, Arkansas, I know what it's like not to have the opportunities that many of our kids from the larger school districts have. Did we increase the number of opportunities for our rural kids in Appalachia and other parts to take part in more AP courses? Now that we've made it inexpensive, only, as I said earlier, $10 to take an AP course, do we have more kids taking part in AP courses? And more importantly, at the end of the day, do we have more kids better prepared for life after high school? Do we have more kids taking part in career technical education courses? And so those will be some of the quantitative courses, some of the quantitative questions we'll answer. On the qualitative end, when we submit our surveys and we have these sit-down conversations with our staff members who taught these courses, did we have more kids in there? And when we talk with the kids who actually, took part in these courses, and we ask them, what was that experience like? Was it a positive experience? Now that you've been given these opportunities, is it more positive? So again, there is definitely a quantitative and qualitative evaluative aspect to this.
Thank you.
Sure.
Just to follow up, please, and my background's healthcare, and one of the biggest challenges we have in healthcare, because it kind of parallels our education system, our health outcomes are not good in Kentucky. We're 44th in the nation, and we keep throwing more money at treating illnesses and not getting into the root cause of the problem. That's social determinants. We know that 60-70% of healthcare issues are based on social determinants, and I would project that possibly that's the same issue with education. I wish that we would attack the virus of poverty as strenuously and as aggressively as we've attacked the COVID virus, because I think the mortality that results from poverty is tenfold what we're realizing with COVID. It's evident in our everyday life, and I would just hope that when we get through this, that we really focus on improving the economy of Kentucky, all corners of Kentucky, not leaving a single county behind, but that's addressing poverty. And too many times we want to treat the symptoms but never cure the disease. And I think that's where we need to be committing the resources. So thank you.
Any further comments? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Motion by Co-Chairman Meredith. I'll second it. Clerk, please.
Second.
Senator Hornback, Senator Southworth.
Explain my vote, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, ma'am.
This also has me concerned relating to the time frame and making what seems to be intentionally, purposely permanent positions with temporary funds. So I'm going to vote no.
Excuse me, I think I want to explain that to you, and I do apologize.
Hold on, sir. We're in the middle of voting.
Sure.
Senator Yates,
Yes.
Representative Bowling,
Yes.
Representative Hart,
Yes.
Representative Mentor,
Yes.
Senator Meredith,
Aye.
Chairman Cook.
Motion, yes, motion carries. Sir, it carried. Do you want to make a brief statement? Or
Yes, I do, and I apologize to the senator if she didn't understand the funding. It is a year-to-year contract, and it's not a permanent position. And once the funding goes away, the position will go away. It's called a limited contract. So again, if I didn't explain that earlier, I do apologize, but I do appreciate the opportunity to explain that.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for being with us. Thank you for the explanation. The final item on the agenda is a consideration of an exemption request from the Energy and Energy Cabinet Division of Forestry. Do we have a motion to approve the exemption request? Motion by Senator Meredith. Is there a second? Second by Representative Hart. Clerk, please call the roll.
Senator Hornback, Senator Southworth,
Aye.
Senator Yates,
Aye.
Representative Bowling,
Yes.
Representative Hart, Representative Mentor, Senator
Yes.
Senator Meredith, Chairman Cook.
Yes, motion carries. Before adjournment, just want to let everybody know we are December 15th. That is a Wednesday. Please note that is Wednesday, December 15th for our next meeting. That being said, we are adjourned.